Thank you for joining me. You're subscribed to my YouTube and we've been having a conversation on Instagram, and I thought it was interesting to have a conversation because everybody's story is a little bit different leading up to going vegan, and I think online there's always the same faces, but I think it's good to speak to a variety of people and show the world that, anybody can be vegan. It's not always these same people that you see, and you can come from any kind of background. So, yeah. Do you want to introduce yourself and just say who you are and what you do, basically, a little bit about you?
Yeah, cool. Can I just say though, your YouTube channel is absolutely fantastic, by the way. Your activism, your approach is just brilliant. I can't remember the first one that I saw, but you see a lot of these YouTubers out there and they've got quite an aggressive approach, and what I love about your channel is you're very conversational and it's just brilliant. And when you mentioned to me that you're looking to do this sort of new type of series where you talk to real vegans about their stories, I just thought perfect, So thank you so much for having me on.
That's all right.
Yeah, so my name's Jay. I'm just a normal guy, really. I was born in Brighton, south of England, and just had a pretty normal childhood, really. Parents split up when I was young, but I think that's the same for everyone of our generation in the UK, to be honest with you. I was just a normal kid. I was a meat eater. I would have, roast dinner on a Sunday, pork. My granddad was a butcher. His family was a butcher. So, I had a kind of a normal upbringing, if you will. I now live up in North Wales and I'm vegan now. So that's me.
Brilliant.
In a nutshell.
So do you have like a pinpoint? Because a lot of people, they have like a vegan story, and I find it really hard when somebody asks me this, because it was probably like a series of events leading up to going vegan that made me vegan. But I don't know, did you see anything with your granddad obviously being a butcher when you was younger, or what? Do you remember like a specific moment that made you ultimately go vegan?
Well, I think this is going to be a really long answer, by the way.
No, go for it.
The first, I remember being probably about 6 years old, and my mum had a friend who was vegan and her husband was vegan. And I remember that was the first time I heard the word vegan, because we had them round for lunch, and my mum was saying, "Oh, they're vegans." And I remember thinking, what's a vegan? And I said to my mum, "What's a vegan?" And she said, they don't eat any meat or no dairy or anything. Oh! And I remember thinking, that's strange. That's very strange. Well, and she said, he's super skinny, her husband, super skinny. That was kind of the narrative, wasn't it? It's kind of still is to this day, that vegans are malnourished and weak and skinny, and and that word vegan just kind of, you just think of just someone skinny, That was the first time that like the word vegan was used to me, and I didn't really meet any other vegans after that until I was about 20. My best friend from school, he became vegan. And I remember saying to him, I thought it was just a phase, All of us did, all of our friends thought it was just a phase. We were like, "Why are you vegan? That's really weird," And he sort of said, it's just for the animals. I saw this documentary, I'm just never doing it again. And we'd have barbecues, and he wouldn't eat any meat or anything, and it was just. But I think that was when the seed was kind of first planted for me, where I started actually thinking about it a little bit, about animal cruelty and things like that. So that was kind of the next phase of my vegan journey. After that, I became a little bit disgruntled with modern society. I lived in the city, I was going out drinking, I was working all the time, completely in the rat race, and I started to think about, I started getting really kind of obsessed with the off-grid sort of lifestyle, and kind of relying on yourself a little bit more. And then I started sort of asking questions in my head around, hang on, where does my meat come from? And this was my thought at the time, if I'm eating meat, should I know the process of what goes into actually, you know, killing these animals and for them getting to my plate. Do I have a right to eat meat if I couldn't actually kill an animal myself? You know, so these kind of like questions started to come into my mind, and my wife and I, we moved up to North Wales, and we decided to kind of pursue this kind of like self-sufficiency sort of life, you know, and we bought a house, and we got chickens, or hens I should say, and we would eat their eggs, and I started slaughtering them.
Yourself?
Yep, completely by myself, and it was horrible. Really, really horrible. But as I say, at that time I was thinking about, you know, if I eat meat, I should be able to do this.
Yeah, absolutely.
We hatched a load of hens. All of the cockerels I slaughtered myself, and yeah, as I say, it was horrible. I also was hunting rabbits as well, and I would skin them and process them and make stews with them. And I did that probably for about 3 or 4 months, and then I stopped. I completely stopped doing it and just went back to just going to the supermarket. And that was because I found it quite horrendous. So I sort of took a step back, if you know what I mean. And then it was, when was it? It was around August 2022. And I wasn't feeling very well. I just wasn't feeling good. I didn't know what was wrong with me. I just felt lethargic, weak, tired all the time. And I just didn't know what was wrong with me. So I went to the doctor and I said to the doctor, look, can you know, give me a blood test or something just to see sort of, you know, if there's anything wrong with me. And they did a blood test. The blood test came back saying that I had high liver enzymes. Basically what that means is your liver's a working organ. It produces dead cells. And the more dead cells that it produces in your blood, the more your liver is having to work. Whereas the less amount of liver enzymes in your blood, the less it's having to work, so your liver's more healthy, if you know what I mean. And the reading is meant to be under 40, and mine came out at 85. So I said to the doctor, you know, what's going on there? He said, oh, you're probably drinking too much. He said, give up drinking for 3 months, and then come back to me. So I gave up drinking for 3 months, and I went back to him, and he did another blood test, and it came back worse. It was like 90.
Wow.
I said, what's going on, doctor? He said, well, what are you eating? I said, I'll just have a normal diet, you know, casseroles and fry-ups and ham sandwiches and, you know, all of this stuff. And he said, look, well, why don't you try controlling your portion sizes a little bit? Come back in 3 months. So I went away, and I had a look online about what causes like liver damage, you know, and everything was pointing to the main culprits: meat, dairy, eggs, cheese, all of this stuff, all of this high saturated fat stuff, and everything was pointing me to a plant-based diet. So I said to my wife, I said, you know what, I'm going to go plant-based for 3 months and see what happens. During that 3 months, things started changing. I started getting realizations about everything that had happened in my life around veganism up till that point. My friend, listening to it as a child from my mother, all of the thoughts that I had in my head around animal cruelty and butchering animals myself, and everything. I just came to the realization that this isn't actually about my health. This is actually about something completely different. It changed my life in more ways than I can even explain to you right now, Jen. And a benefit alongside that was that I was feeling better as well. And I watched all the documentaries, the Gary Yourofsky speech, which I'm sure you know about, and I watched Earthlings, which is probably one of the most heart-wrenching, deepest documentaries that I've ever watched in my life, you know. And I think about it now and it makes me actually quite emotional, you know, because I think about those animals that I butchered and I killed myself, and it cuts me up, you know, it really does. And anyway, I went back to the doctors after the 3 months. They gave me another blood test. I didn't really care what the outcome was going to be, because that was it. I was vegan for life. But my reading came out at 20. So it's
Wow.
cured. Sorry for the long answer.
No, thank you so much for sharing that. Really, really interesting. I've always thought that obviously you can only go vegan for the animals, but going plant-based for like your health or going plant-based for the environment, I think is kind of a way into veganism, because once you've taken that first step, I think that you're more open-minded and you're more receptive to hearing about the ethical side of it and looking into that, because you're not currently participating in it, whereas if you are, then you kind of turn a blind eye and you're not open to hearing that. So
Yeah.
I think it's great.
No, absolutely. And I would say now that if my reading had have come out at 100, it wouldn't have changed, because by the time I actually realised, I had a kind of an entry into plant-based veganism. But for me, the only reason now is for the animals. I'm sure that every vegan would say the same, no matter what type of entry they had into it, whether it's environmental or whether it's for health, selfish health reasons, or whether it's for the animals. By the time you become vegan, number one is the animals, It's strange because I now have bought a property and I live basically up in North Wales on a kind of a farm. I've got some land, and before I moved to this property, my dream was to farm it with pigs and chickens and animals and farm it, be a farmer. And whilst I was waiting for the paperwork to go through, all of this stuff was happening to me. So now I'm here now. I've got this land, and my dream now, my whole life has changed, and my dream now is to rescue animals and allow them to live out their lives happily here alongside me, not as pets or anything that I claim to be mine, just letting them live here and enjoy their own lives in their own way.
I love that, giving them a second chance of life. Because I remember you messaging me on Instagram and saying that you'd applied to be a farmer before, but then obviously all of this happened and you were like, oh, change of plan. But I didn't know you actually, with the chickens and things like that. And I think that, we've all got some kind of guilt from like before we were vegan. Even if you didn't do that yourself, I think that, I still paid for somebody else to do it. There's no difference really, but I suppose having first-hand experience, I suppose it's quite like haunting. Do you like think about that time?
I do, yeah, I do think about it. I think in life it's important that you move forward. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, of course.
But there are times where, I think back to when I was doing it, and there was actually one incident where I didn't get it right, and this cockerel sort of broke out of my hands and was bleeding everywhere, and it was just horrible. And that was actually probably the reason why I stopped doing it. That was the last one that I did. They know what's going on. People think, I always used to think that animals are stupid. They knew what was going on. And I think about it. Like you said, we all carry some guilt from the past, but for me, all I can do from now is do my best, and I've got 2 young kids and I'm raising them vegan.
Amazing.
Non-vegans, a big argument that they have is, what difference can I make? Yeah. We can all make a massive difference. I think it's something like 300 animals a year die for every single person in the UK. That's a lot of lives saved. And the mistake that those people are making is they're not thinking about the individual, they're thinking about themselves.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of like ironic because the birds that you had probably had a better life and the least traumatic death, even though being killed is always going to be traumatic, than the animals in the supermarket. But people would rather go to the supermarket and buy the products there because they don't have to have any part in it. And if that doesn't scream, people say, oh, we're omnivores. Well, if we're really omnivores, why would we have to have so much distance from what we're doing? It's so crazy. It kind of reminds me of an idea that I had, like an activism idea, which was to pretend that I'm starting up a business where I'm a chicken farmer, but rather than people buy the dead chicken, my business proposal, business idea, if you like, was to send them the live chicken and all the equipment and the manual so that they can, kill the chicken and do everything they need to cook them, defeather them, whatever's involved. And my whole business proposal would be like, it's going back to our roots, it's what's natural, you can show your children how to do it, and these chickens have as least traumatic life and death as possible. And then obviously they're going to say, oh, I wouldn't be able to do that because most people can't. And then I would say, well, why would you buy it from the supermarket? Like, they have to be transported to a slaughterhouse. The death that they have there is going to be much worse. So that was like an idea that I had, but it reminded me with your story, what you were saying.
That's a really good idea. I'd love to see the look on people's faces, when you when you do that.
Yeah, it's kind of like Elwood's organic dog meat, but going kind of like a different route.
People are just so detached, aren't they? They really, really are detached. I've tried to get some friends who are not vegan to watch Earthlings, and I've sent them the link, and they've watched 2 minutes, and they've gone, "Oh, I can't watch that." And you just think to yourself, well, if you can't watch it, why do you let that happen?
Yeah.
This is one of the challenges that I've actually had since becoming vegan, and I don't know if it's the same for yourself, but initially, when I first turned vegan and I suddenly had all of these realizations, I just expected to be able to convince everybody around me, and I found it so frustrating, and I became almost angry and would alienate myself from people when they wouldn't agree with me. And it's a challenge. I don't know what you think.
Yeah, I think we can all relate to that, because it's like there's something that is holding people back from going vegan, but as a vegan, there's nothing to be afraid of. There's nothing to be scared of. You are going to be absolutely fine. You can get all of your nutrients. You will enjoy food again. I think people think that, I can't face that, because if I face that, if I look at it, it means that I'm going to have to change. And if I change, my health, I'm just worried what's going to happen to that. I'm never going to enjoy food. I'm going to be completely ostracized. I'm going to be one of these weirdos. But it's like, no, you're the exact same person that you always have been. You can eat all of the foods that you enjoy. You don't have to change your personality, and it will be absolutely fine. But they're so scared to take that leap. So yeah, it's really frustrating. I would love to take them to a slaughterhouse and watch the animals going in, and you can look into their eyes. They clearly know what's happening inside of there, and they can smell the blood, they can hear the screams. God only knows, that experience when they pull up and they're trembling. It's a really horrible sight to see.
I think as well, like with me slaughtering my own animals, I felt like they were looking at me, basically saying to me, "You've let me down." Because I would go out, I'd see them every day, I'd feed them, I'd stroke them, I'd pick them up. And then all of a sudden, I just became the devil to them.
It's like a betrayal.
Betrayed them, yeah, absolutely.
But at the time, you were thinking, I have to do this.
Exactly, yeah. I was so fixated on, taking more control over what I'm eating and being less reliant on supermarkets and the process behind, what ends up on my plate, that I felt like I had to do it. All of those worries that I had beforehand about how food would be tasteless, how I wouldn't know what to eat, all of that stuff ended up being the easiest things. All you do is you just reach for that in the supermarket rather than reach for that. It's that simple. It really is. So all of these concerns that you have beforehand are just a load of rubbish. And I wish that people would just understand that, But as I'm kind of becoming more of an experienced vegan, I'm understanding more that people just need every question answered in their minds before they can take that step. So instead of me getting frustrated with people, be patient with them, and that's why I love your activism and the way that you communicate with people. There's a lot of patience, and I'm learning that.
It's easier said than done though, especially when you think that there's all of these lives out there and they're essentially depending on you, and sometimes it's almost like you feel desperate to just make them understand what because there's lives at stake. These animals are depending on you and they don't have anyone else. So I think that You know, it's easier said than done. It's easy to understand why vegans can get frustrated. And on the face of it, I think that, you know, we do a very good job at staying calm, especially when you compare it to, you know, the meat eaters, when you're out in the streets and you're selling dog meat that's not really dog meat, and, you know, they go crazy and flip it in the air. And it's just like, imagine if we were doing that at, like, you know, a butcher's who's selling pigs. You know, they would think we're crazy. It's insane.
I strongly believe, though, that one day the world will be vegan. I really think, you know, that things are changing. I don't know what you think. Maybe not in the next 5 years, but I feel like the world is starting to understand, you know, a bit more.
Yeah, I mean, if you look throughout history and you look at every group that's been oppressed, obviously, you know, it's never going to be a perfect situation where there's no racism, no sexism, no oppression. You know, things are still happening. People still get trafficked. There's still victims of abuse. So I don't think it'll ever fully disappear. But I think it will come to a point where non-human animals are as protected as humans. That's what we've seen throughout history, and that's the direction that we're going in. The only thing is, how long is it going to take? It's going to happen regardless. It's just that as vegans, it's up to us as to how soon or how quickly that happens. And obviously, the sooner the better for the animals.
Yeah, absolutely. I think once we get more vegans in a position of power, and it will happen, you know,
yeah.
I'm sure that my kids' generation, when they're our age, I think that there will be vegans in position of power. I think, and that will really, really help. I'm just doing my best raising my kids vegan, raising them to be good people, and hopefully they will take that and spread it, and, you know, that's all we can do.
So do your kids go to school, or are they homeschooled, or?
Yeah, so my eldest is 3.5 and the youngest is 1. And do you know what? Schools are so supportive. They're in nursery, but so supportive. Yeah. They really, really are. I think years ago, it probably wouldn't have been the same, but being a vegan is a protected characteristic in the schools now. Schools have to support any child which identifies as vegan. So, yeah, they're just absolutely brilliant, you know. I know that my kids will face a situation where they're offered a chocolate bar or something like that and they won't really understand. You know, I can't be there all the time, but all I can do is just raise them vegan, teach them about it. I think a lot of people as well with children, they think, oh, you can't say those things to them about slaughtering of animals. They're too young to know all that. I don't agree. I think they need to know animals are killed and people eat them, you know.
Yeah.
So I'm going to raise my kids as best I can, knowing from day one, and I won't lie to them, that this is what happens and this is why you don't eat those sort of foods here. But yeah, I'm just kind of doing my best, as I say, to spread the word. Actually, a funny story. About a month ago, I had a plumber come round to do a little bit of work, and I offered him a cup of tea. And I said, oh, do you take milk and sugar? He said, yep. I said, okay, cool. I've got soy or oat. And he went, ugh, you ain't got normal milk? I said, I've got soy or oat, so which one would you like? He goes, oh, that's a bit weird, isn't it? And I said, well, we're vegan. We don't
breastfeed.
Yeah, we don't drink cow's milk, you know. He said, oh, that is so weird. And I said to him, all right, so what's weirder? If you and me are sitting in a field, I said, and I'm mixing some oats with a bit of water for a drink, and you're on your hands and knees sucking on a cow's breasts, who's the weird one? And he literally looked at me like this, and then burst into laughter. It was like the penny dropped, you know. And he agreed with me completely. He was like, yeah, that is pretty weird. And we had a conversation about it, you know. And I actually found out from him that he's got some health issues, but every single morning he has his milk on his cereal, and he has his coffee, and he feels unwell and quite sick for the first few hours of every day. And I said to him, look, here's some oat milk. I said, take it home. Do that for the next week. Let me know how you get on. A week later, I got a text message from him, and he said, I am never drinking milk ever again.
Never drinking breast milk?
Yeah, no more breast milk.
There's always an opportunity, isn't there? Like, I always, looking out the window, those people who knock on your doors because they're like Jehovah's Witnesses or something. Everyone else hides behind the curtains and I'm there waiting for them. Like that story about the plumber, it reminded me of a couple of times when I've had people over, to come and have a look if there's something wrong going on in the house or whatever. I used to do what you said and offer them, is oat milk all right, for example? And I found that when I did that, I'd make them a cup of tea and they'd drink it and kind of be almost like skeptical of it. Like it was like, ooh, taking a little sip. And then they'd be like, no, I can't drink it, it's horrible. But then what I started doing, and I don't know if this is bad because obviously people might have allergies, maybe I shouldn't do this, but I stopped telling them that it was plant-based milk. And I said, oh, do you take milk and sugar? Yes. So, I just put the soya milk in or whatever, give it to them. And then they'd drink it and I'd say, oh, how was your tea? And they'd be like, oh, yeah, really nice, thank you. And then I'd say, oh, okay, yeah, it was soya milk in there. And, oh, really? But because they're not like apprehensive of how it's going to taste and it's something different and they've already decided in their mind that they're not going to like it before they start drinking it, then it's like different. So yeah, but maybe I should start off saying, have you got any allergies, in case they've got like an allergy to soya or something and I poison them.
Just dig a hole in the garden and
imagine vegan poisons meat eater out of act of revenge. We don't want a story like that.
Do you know what though? You know the oat barrister? That really nice Alpro oat barrister? That
I know the one.
is the tastiest thing you can have in your coffee. Much better than any cow's milk that I've ever had in a coffee before. That stuff is delicious. It really is. And every single non-vegan that I've given that to, including my dad, who is just one of the most old school people in the world, loves it.
Do you ever find that there's some non-vegan products where it tastes so much like the real thing that you're kind of like a bit grossed out by it and you're like, oh my god, no, that's too much like ham from a pig, so I can't eat that because it just makes you feel sick?
Yeah, no, definitely. I'm a bit like that with Beyond Burgers, to be honest.
Are you?
Everybody says how tasty they are, but for me it reminds me too much. It's strange because since I've become vegan, my taste buds have changed completely. I get the most amazing taste pleasure from just the most simple of foods now. I will eat like a poke bowl and I will just have peas, some rice, maybe some hummus, I don't know, some pickles, some kimchi or something like that. Just very, very simple food, And I just find it so tasty because I know that it's good for me and I know that it's guilt-free. And all of the things like shepherd's pie or lasagna, you can get really good alternatives for, but it just reminds me too much of the taste of meat.
It's good that you've got like both sides, isn't it? You've got the food that amazing for your body and mind, make you feel great within yourself, but then on the other hand you've also got the processed foods. I've always told people the easiest way to transition to a plant-based diet is to kind of eat the same foods that you're eating but make very simple switches. So if you're eating so much processed food and junk food now, start substituting with the same kind of products, and yeah, of course you can become healthier over time. But if you go from eating loads of carbs and loads of calories and loads of processed foods, and then you go on to eating vegetables with no seasoning and you're not getting enough calories, you're probably going to feel very tired and lethargic. I had a guy that I spoke to once and he said that he tried going vegan and he only ate watermelon for a week. And I'm like, dude, no wonder you were feeling so rubbish if you've gone from eating all of this fast food and you're eating all of these calories and then you're going on to watermelon. But yeah, it's it's the same on the other side. If they're eating a relatively healthy diet, I say relatively because obviously it's still got animal body parts in, and then they start eating all of the processed vegan foods, then it's probably gonna have the same effect but in a different way. So
funnily enough, when I first went plant-based, at that time, during my test results, I did just do what you said. I was eating all the same stuff, I just was eating the vegan option, and still I felt better, and still my health improved. It's only since becoming vegan that I've dropped all of those types of foods now, the more that I've learned about veganism and health. But just making that switch actually did improve my health.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised, because although no processed food is good for you, when you compare it to a processed burger from an animal, then it is healthier.
That's one of the frustrations as well. You know, people say to me, and family members they'll say, yeah, I don't really not sure about going vegan because it's all processed, isn't it? And you just think, what do you think sausages are? What do you think burgers are?
It's just the narrative that the media puts out there, all this vegan processed foods, but they don't say anything about the animal-based processed foods that's even worse.
It is.
But yeah, I mean, I would agree with you when you say that you enjoy food more now that you're vegan. And non-vegans, when I say that, they tend to not believe me, and they say, you're lying. How can you enjoy food so much more now? But to me, a non-vegan diet is bland. All of the seasonings that they put on their food is vegan seasonings to make it taste better. And when I went vegan, I was experimenting with so many different new flavours and textures, and yeah, love food so much more now. Enjoy cooking so much more.
Yeah, just a whole more variety of different foods now. What's your story of becoming vegan? Because I'm not sure I've seen you sort of talk about it. You've kind of touched on it, but
yeah,
do you mind me asking you to tell me a little bit?
No, not at all. Not at all. I've got a bit of a background of being, you know, your typical animal lover, and you know, when I was younger, I always said that I cared about animals and wanted to work with animals at some point in the future. But obviously, I was raised eating animals, and then when I was in my teens, I went vegetarian for a very brief period. Didn't know anything about dairy, didn't know anything about eggs, but I think I saw something and it kind of put me off eating animals. That lasted about 6 months because I was living at home with my mom. I was just eating crap. So my mom was like, oh, stop being silly. You just eat this, go on. And I was just like, okay, I'm not feeling too good in myself anyway, because obviously the diet. And then, yeah, I kind of forgot about it for a few years, distanced myself, and I think it was during lockdown, you know, like with what happened with COVID and the wet markets, and they were killing animals there. It just really like grossed me out again, and I was thinking, people killing animals, it spreads all these diseases. I don't want any part of this. I'm not living with my parents, I'll do my own shopping. I'm a lot wiser, so I'm going to give it a go again and see what happens. Also, because it was lockdown, I was watching a lot of like YouTube debates and going down like the YouTube rabbit hole. And I remember watching Piers Morgan debates. He had Joey on his show, Joey Carbstrong. And I remember him speaking to Joey, and I must have looked into his videos and stuff. But then obviously the algorithm recognised that, and then it started recommending me Ed's videos. And then one day I just watched his TED Talk, and everything just like clicked. And I was just like, oh my God, like this is so obvious. Because at the time I didn't really know what was happening in my life. I was on furlough and I was thinking like, what's my purpose? You know, what am I supposed to do? And when I watched that, it was like so clear, this is my purpose. I need to help these animals. I learned everything that I needed to know about veganism in the space of like a week. I binge watched all of the documentaries, all of the footage, broke down over it because it just like crushed me, and I had like the realization of what was going on. But then I always say it was really valuable me having that, because from that point on I knew that there was no going back. Like that was it, and I was committed then. So yeah, I learnt all that. It's always like, you know, I need to do more. So within that month I joined AV because I heard Ed mentioned it in one of his videos. I watched every single one of his YouTube videos. I was just like, right, I'm doing AV, I need to get involved in activism, I need to do more, being vegan isn't enough. So yeah, I did that. Went to my first cube in the January, so I'd only been vegan for a couple of months. And then, yeah, with the YouTube stuff, we had somebody, the Birmingham organiser in AV, really like inspirational guy. He's gone off to Spain now to do like the same thing that I'm doing here. He was just asking me, like, I've got my camera, do you want me to film you? And I was like, you know, if it's going to help the animals, yes, let's do it. Put it online, and yeah, I had like the realisation that, like, wow, you can reach so many more people. Putting your videos out there online. I could be here having one conversation with one person, but if I'm recording it, you're reaching potentially thousands more. So it was just like a no-brainer, really, that I had to make content. And I've been uploading consistently, probably for the same time as you, really, since last November.
And just loving it.
Yeah, it comes with its challenges, obviously, getting the attention of all the trolls and stuff. People are getting triggered by what you're putting out there. I feel like I need to do something a bit more controversial. I want to really reach people, so I'm thinking maybe I should do something a bit more controversial, maybe like, you know, disrupting some places, get my videos seen more, because once people click on your channel, they think, oh, what's this all about? The algorithm, like what happened with me. I'm always looking for new ways to help the animals.
Your channel's great. Every single time I watch you speak to the people, and the way that you sort of explain things to them and the silly things they say, I just watch every episode meticulously, you know, and I don't know whether to laugh and cry sometimes at some of the responses, you know, that these people give you, but yeah, I really like that idea that you said earlier about getting them to sign up for a free trial for this new idea where you send it in the post, and I think that's a good idea. I think you're onto something there.
Yeah, maybe I'll do that. Initially, I didn't actually plan to make video content. My sort of way of thinking was, we've already got Ed, we've already got Joey for that, you know, there's no need for me to do it as well. I can just do the groundwork, point them in their direction, and they're doing the online stuff. But obviously, the more people and the more variety of people you've got as well, that's what's going to help the animals. You know, I might come up on somebody's For You page where Ed and Joey hasn't. Obviously, there's so many more amazing creators as well. And I might resonate with somebody more than they do. So it's having as many people all shouting the same message that's going to get us there.
No, absolutely, you know, and different personalities and different ways of explaining the same message. Have you had any like success stories where somebody's like contacted you after you've reached out to them in the street and they've gone, that's it, sussed it?
Yeah, I think the best situations is when somebody that I know from my past has reached out to me, like, you know, a cousin or an ex-colleague or something, and being like, I've been watching your content and, you know, I've started going vegan. That's happened a couple of times. You've got your own channel as well, right?
Yeah.
I was going to ask a little bit about that, because you're building a homestead there, is that correct?
Yeah. So I'm just building a homestead, and yeah, as I say, I'm going to eventually rescue animals and look after them, and yeah, I'm really interested in growing vegetables as well, and I'm really starting to learn a lot about plant-based cooking as well. So my channel at the moment is all about me doing building work, because that's number one priority at the moment, but it's all about building, gardening, planting trees, rescuing animals, cooking, and just my life, really, you know, and everything that I get up to. It's just a vlog, really, of just kind of what I'm doing, you know. I'm not sort of doing anything for the viewers to enjoy. I'm doing everything that I want to do in my order. Yeah. And putting it on there, and if anyone wants to jump on and have a look and comment and give me advice or troll me or whatever, you know, they're welcome to. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm doing at the moment. I don't know whether it's the same for yourself, but I found since going online and speaking online, it's given me like this confidence that I was kind of like searching for?
Yeah, I mean, I think everything that I do really, it does give me confidence, because I would describe myself as more of an introvert, and, you know, getting out there and speaking on the streets, it's not something that I'd be doing if it wasn't for the animals needing me to do that. So it's like, I find it strange and ironic when people say that I'm on a high horse or whatever, and that I want to like shame people for my own like ego or something, because I'm like, look, I really don't want to be doing this. But yeah, I mean, everything that I do, it's like completely out of my comfort zone. I think that it's good to, you know, do what you're doing, and more people should do that, because it's kind of like, you know, you're leaving behind your footprint, your legacy, and, you know, your kids can look back at that when they're older, and you're kind of documenting your life and this moment in time. It's always going to be there. It's almost like a diary entry in a way, isn't it?
Exactly, yeah. And you know, I do think about, you know, one day when I'm old and the kids are watching back, you know, I'm really enjoying it. It's a big step to take, you know, putting yourself out there and putting yourself online, but it's really good fun. But yeah, as I say, my whole plan's changed since becoming vegan, all for the best. I just cannot wait until I'm in a position where I can start rescuing animals. It's going to be great, you know. It's almost like payback, if you know what I mean, for things that I've done in the past, and that's all we're doing really. We're all just doing our best, you know.
I was going to ask earlier, do you get many people not trolling but like commenting on how you're raising your kids vegan? Because I've had in the past, I've heard people who've been raised vegan and their response is, oh my god, so what, you didn't even get a choice? Your parents forced veganism on you? And it's just like, well, any way of life is forced on you. I mean, existence itself is forced upon you, so it's just like inevitable. But they don't complain if it's eating animals.
Yeah. No, I do. I actually get it quite a lot, and not online or anything like that, but I get it from family.
Do you?
Yeah, I mean, especially when we first became vegan as a family, you know, my parents would say things like, yeah, but what about your kids? Aren't you worried that they're not going to grow properly? And just things like this, you know. For me, that's been the hardest thing since turning vegan. The comments from the closest people in your life. All of those other things that you worry about, like, you know, what will I eat? Will I get sick? All of that is nothing, you know. It's people closest to you and how they question you. It's been over a year and a half now, and even now, every single time we go to a restaurant, the V word is used, which is fine, but it would be nice to just go to a restaurant and just not use the V word. Just, you eat what you eat, I'll eat what I eat, and let's just have a conversation, you know. You don't have to talk about what I'm eating all the time like it's some sort of bizarre, crazy thing, you know. Is it the same for you?
Do you mean like family gatherings and it always gets brought up?
Yeah.
Not so much now, because I think my family members have realised how it's going to go. Yeah, my mum is plant-based now, but I think they try and avoid the topic in any way they can, because they know that they can't like win a debate with me. We've been through every topic and it always comes back to I mean, I'm talking mostly about my brothers. So yeah, they try and avoid it. At first they did talk about it quite a lot, but now they won't bring it up. But I wouldn't go out for dinner and sit there with them while they're eating animals. If they're there and they're eating an animal or anything from an animal in front of me, I can't stay silent and just sit there and eat my food and have a smile and a laugh and a joke about other things, because I almost feel that that's like a betrayal to the animals, because I've made this promise to them, like, you know, I'm gonna do what I can to defend you and speak up for you. And I feel like that if I'm like having a good time while somebody else is eating them in front of me and I'm not saying anything, that's kind of like I'm almost endorsing it. But yeah, I've had it before where there was a situation, for example, where I was at a 1-year-old's birthday party, family member, and I was told that there wasn't going to be any food there whatsoever. I got there and they started serving up like a buffet of animal products. They had like obviously vegan options, but I was just like, oh my god, what do I do in this situation? This is a 1-year-old's birthday party. I don't want to make it about me or about the animals, but like I can't sit here and like be happy, and it's such a moral dilemma. So yeah, that really like it tore me up. I just like when it was time to leave, I just left and like just burst into tears because I didn't know what to do. Like, what's the best thing to do in that situation? How can I be a good? How can I be there for the animals, but then, you know, not upset a child? Do you know what I mean? Everyone's got a different family dynamic, and you know, some people, they do feel comfortable going and eating with their family, and they find that, you know, this is a way that works best for them. And if it's gonna, you know, if it's gonna have a detrimental effect if they don't go and they stop hanging out with their family and friends, you know, then I would say that they've got to make a decision that's gonna, you know, suit them. So I'm not like criticizing anybody who's not doing exactly what I'm doing, if that makes sense. That's just me.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it is tough. As I say, it's one of the hardest things, the sort of frustrations that you feel towards others. You don't even think about that before you turn vegan. So anyone who's watching now, this will be probably your main challenge. But I mean, for me, I accept it. I don't like it, but I deal with it and I make the best of a bad situation. And I just lead by example. So whatever food I order, I bloody enjoy it. Because I always do.
Sure.
You know, I like good food, you know. And I just show them that I can enjoy a delicious vegan meal every moment of it and come out of that restaurant happy and satisfied. I can order a nice cake dessert with beautiful vegan cream on it. It tastes no different to the death that's on their plate, you know. And it's just that constant showing them. Actually, my relationship with my parents has changed massively since I became vegan, but I've also continued not drinking. I've been sober as well since that time, and my parents are alcoholics, so they're distancing themselves from me a little bit, which is quite hard, you know. So I don't want to lose them because they're family at the end of the day, so I try and sort of you know.
That's kind of how it is with my dad at the moment. So my mom, obviously she's plant-based now, but I find it really difficult to have a relationship with somebody when they're actively going against everything that I'm fighting for, you know. You do have to find a balance, but I suppose everybody's family dynamic is different, isn't it?
It is. It's hard. It is really hard. But as I say, the easiest thing is just tasting all the amazing, delicious new foods that you'll try.
Do you cook for them?
Yes, yeah, I do. And actually, my wife's parents, they're super supportive. Every single time we go round, everybody eats plant-based. They are absolutely brilliant. It's more that my parents have been a bit tricky. They are eating a lot less meat, and we are working on them, but it's a slow burner, unfortunately.
I mean, it feels like very slow for us because I suppose when we're living in real time, this is all we know. But the reality is we're just like one small fraction in time. So things do progress quickly. It just feels so slow for us because that's all we know.
Yeah.
I mean, when you look, you know, back like 30 years ago, even then it was nothing like it is today. This is why it's interesting talking to different vegans like yourself, you know, people with different experiences, because there's vegans from the 50s, 60s who had such a different experience when they were younger, and, you know, you couldn't get anything in the supermarket. You won't be able to get plant-based milks. What's it like where you are? Because you live in quite a rural area. Do you have access to shops and stuff?
Yeah, so I mean, there's a co-op about a 20-minute drive away. I still go to Tesco or Morrison's, you know. It's just a bit further that I have to travel. But yeah, I mean, every kind of restaurant across North Wales has pretty decent vegan options, to be honest. Everybody does oat milk if you want to grab a coffee somewhere, so it's easy, you know. It is just easy. It doesn't matter whether you're rural, in a city. There are I mean, there's even a few vegan only options. I live near Carnarvon in North Wales. There's a couple of pure vegan restaurants. There's a few in Bangor as well, which isn't too far away. So it's easy. If there's anybody, as I say, watching who's thinking of becoming vegan, who's a little bit concerned about these things, don't be. It is so easy to be vegan in this day and age. You find a way. I mean, like you said, even those people who were vegan 50 years ago, they found a way, because when you know. When it clicks, and you find a way.
Exactly. I always find when people say that it's difficult to be vegan, they're almost forgetting the animals, because it's like, well, if you think it's difficult to not pay for animals to be abused and killed, what do you think it's like for them? That's what's difficult, being in their shoes. And when you put yourself in the animal's position and you imagine what it's like to be them, going vegan is so easy.
Yeah, it is.
It's a no-brainer.
No-brainer. No, absolutely. And I wouldn't change it for the world. You know, I'm happier, healthier than I have ever been. I feel good about myself. Every meal I have is guilt-free now. And, you know, the power of that is just brilliant. You know, I just feel good in every single way. There's no victim on my plate.
You know, we're probably going to get some comments, right, on this video, like, oh, for every 10 people that go vegan, 7 people stop being vegan, or something like that.
Yeah, well, it just hasn't clicked for them. They're doing it for all the wrong reasons. They're probably doing it for themselves and not for the animals, you know. But when it clicks, you know. But it's good that people are trying it, I suppose, in a way. There's a seed planted there, so maybe they're just taking a bit longer. Maybe it just hasn't quite clicked yet.
It's just frustrating that they identify as vegan, because I think it all kind of stems from like a misunderstanding about what veganism actually is, and then obviously, you know, that creates even more of a misunderstanding.
Yeah.
And then when they're not vegan, because like you said, they haven't gone vegan for the right reasons, then they become a statistic. But I mean, even still, it's still a good thing, because it's not a good thing, obviously, that people start eating animals again, but that means that there's 3 people that have gone vegan and have stayed vegan, and that's still an upwards trend, right?
Absolutely. And I think I read in 2024 about 1 million people in the UK went vegan. We're up to 2.5 million people now. What's that, 3%? 4%? Amazing. You know, it's happening, it's changing, you know, I can feel it, I can see it, and it is, once you get it, it's just so obvious, isn't it? And with the power of the internet and people like yourselves who are going out there and putting this content online and raising the debate, it all just helps, you know. So
yeah,
I want to say thank you to you.
Oh, thank you very much, and thank you to you as well. Everyone's doing their little bit. It's such a shame that we have the forces working against us. The meat, egg, dairy, fish, leather, all of these industries, and they're so much bigger than we are. They've got a lot more money than we have. They spread propaganda through advertising. They can get adverts out on TV and stuff, but I mean, all it does at the end of the day is tries to delay the inevitable. Because veganism is inevitable. We will get to a vegan world, but we're trying to speed it up, they're trying to delay it.
Yeah, absolutely. Honesty and kindness always prevails in the end. It does.
Definitely. I mean, I get a lot of comments like, oh, why aren't you speaking out for human injustice? And why aren't you, speaking for this or this or this? But it's like, well, when you're speaking out for veganism, you're trying to promote the ideology that we can't view other lives as less valuable as our own. And, you're raising your children with those ideologies, that respect for other life. And if you teach your children to respect, the life of even like the smallest insects, how could they ever be racist or sexist or oppress any other human being? Because you're bringing them up with those kind of values, Yeah,
I mean, all bad traits in people are learnt behaviour. You don't see babies or children being racist or sexist or anything like that. It's all learnt behaviour. So it's important to just make sure that we raise our children of the future in the right way.
Absolutely. When parents lie to their children, they don't tell them what it is that they're eating, and when kids find out that it's actually an animal, by that time they've been conditioned and brainwashed and they think, oh, it's normal, you know. My parents are obviously good people, so this can't be a bad thing. But, you know, it's deceptive, and I wish I'd had somebody raising me vegan. I really do.
Yeah, I remember, actually, funnily enough, I remember as a kid being told that prawns live in the sea. I thought they were just some little vegetable or something when I was a kid. I must have been about 6. And I remember going, ugh! Nobody told me what a prawn really was. It's funny you say that, because that just triggered that memory that's probably been lost for about for about 30 years in my mind.
The same concerns that you say that your parents have with you raising your kids vegan, I have the same kind of concerns about my niece being raised not vegan, because she's really, like, you know, sweet, compassionate, and she's always saying to me, you know, when I'm older, I'm going to be vegan like you, Auntie Gemma. And, you know, we have those kind of conversations, and she'll say, I'm going to come and help the animals with you and rescue them. And obviously when she's with me, she's fully plant-based. But then when she goes home, obviously her parents feed her animals, and she's only 6. So she's not at a stage where she feels that she can say, no, I'm not eating that, because she just wants to please. If her parent says you need to eat that, you know, she's an obedient kid. She just wants to please and make the adult happy. But yeah, I do worry, like this is gonna, I know from myself how I was raised. I know what it's gonna do to her.
My camera's about to run out again.
No, what I was just gonna say, is there anything else that you wanted to discuss?
No, I just want to say a massive thank you for having me on to your channel and letting me, you know, get all of this off my chest, you know, because it's not often that I get to openly speak about veganism. So a massive thank you, and I'm looking forward to this going on online.
Well, thank you for coming and sharing your experience and your stories. I mean, it's not an easy thing to do, you know, with your background. And I think it's massively relatable as well. I think people are going to really listen to some of the things you've said and relate. And I think that it's good as vegans to have other vegans that we can relate to and, just get by in this crazy world. So yeah, thank you for that. If anybody's interested in following your journey, where can they follow you?
Escape to Rural Wales, my channel is called. It's just a vlog, a little bit boring, but if you want to jump on and say hello, you're welcome.
Not for everyone. There's something for everyone out there, isn't there? And you're on YouTube and Instagram.
That's correct, yeah, YouTube and Instagram, both Escape to Rural Wales, and if you want to plod along with me, pop over and say hello.
Yeah, and watch out for your animal sanctuary. Are you going to be allowing visitors?
Yes, that's the plan. Yep, in the future.
Amazing. But yeah, thank you very much. And
thank you, Jen.
Yeah, if anyone else is interested in coming on and speaking to me or debating with me as well, I'll happily have non-vegans come and speak with me, or, you know, vegans who want to share their journey into veganism, or, you know, people who have been vegan for many years and how they've seen things change over the years. I'm open to that as well.